Three, two, one.
Action.
Okay, welcome everybody. Here we are for episode number 30. Wow. Untitled ZX. I'm Uncle Frank. This is Nick.
That's me.
How's everything going, Nick? You missed me last week?
Sure. I saw you 2 days ago, though, so it's fine.
All right. Well,
All
glad
those
you got
days
over
ago,
it.
I don't remember. All the days blend together.
They do. I was in Nashville. You know what I did there?
What?
I drove in a Waymo.
A what?
A Waymo.
Okay, what does that mean? What
It's a
is...
driverless taxi.
Oh, a clanker.
No, you get into it and the car drives itself across town.
Your car is powered by a clanker.
There's nobody in it. What's a clanker?
A
A
machine.
robot?
Yes.
Oh, machine, yeah. It was pretty cool. It was a Jaguar.
Hmm.
Would you do it? Would you do a Waymo, Nick, or no?
Absolutely not.
Why?
I don't want a clanker driving my car.
Do you think you're a better driver or the robot is?
Me, probably.
You think you're better than a robot?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Well, the data would say otherwise.
The data would say otherwise because the machine cultivated the data.
Hmm, I got you. Well, the humans I know are usually terrible drivers. So, what I missed last week, you reviewed Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Give me the 2 minute version.
The 2 minute version of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Despite my severe sort of skepticisms going into it, it ended up impressing me, which also made me more and more disappointed that the next MCU movie is Avengers Doomsday. Because they're
Ah,
now three for three, three pretty good movies in a row, and it's all culminating with what looks like it may end up being one of the most disastrous comic book movies of all time.
hmm. So you think this is the end of the streak?
Yeah, I think they're gonna power through the Avengers movie so they can get to the X-Men in the next saga
Hmm.
with their X-Men reboot, which we are reported to be hearing the full casting of next week at D23. We will cover D23 extensively because of the inevitable Star Wars reveals,
Yeah.
as one
All
does.
right. Well, good to hear Spider-Man was good. I got to get to the movie theater and
I
see
also,
this.
before we go into today's agenda, something random got announced today that I just think is really, really bizarre. And it's not something like overly, it's kind of related, but I feel like it's something worth bringing up. Just today, Marvel announced a new comic limited series where they are going to finally have the Marvel and Star Wars universes crossover in Star Wars X Marvel Hope Assembled or something. I don't know why it is we're doing
Marvel and
this.
Star Wars, who's asking for this?
I have no idea, but Marvel has the publishing rights for Star Wars comics, so I imagine that has something to do with it.
It's going to be terrible.
Probably. We're getting a Lego set from it too, apparently. There's rumors that there's going to be a Lego Iron Falcon with Marvel Star Wars mashup characters, which is going to be interesting, I guess.
They don't have anything to do with each other. It's like putting it in the Muppets or something. Why did they add that to it? Mash all three of them together.
Hey, you know what? Muppet Star Wars would actually be great. The Muppets
Muppet,
go.
Star Wars, Marvel, Legos. Love it.
Yeah, no, I'd pay for that, honestly. The Muppets go well with everything. That's sort of the thing with Muppets, that you can put them in literally any movie, show, or piece of just media in general, and they will fit perfectly.
You could have Piggy play Darth Vader.
Exactly.
Hmm. All right, well, interesting. All right, well, let's go to today's agenda. We got a couple different movie reviews we're going to do. We got primetime trailer impressions and, of course, Star Wars time, where we'll talk about the Ninth Jedi.
Finally, I waited 5 years for that.
All right, but let's start with the first movie review. Was this the AMC Screen Unseen?
Yeah, that was last night's Screen Unseen. I
And
knew it, I was fairly confident what it was going into it, but now I'm
yeah,
4 for 4 in guessing correctly, so
nice. And it was the movie Tony.
yes.
So, all right, tell me what about it? How was it?
So it's directed by a guy named Matt Johnson who did a movie called Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie earlier this year. That's been considered by many to be one of the best of the year. I do need to check that one out still, but this
Hmm.
seemed interesting because this is a biopic about Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I saw a preview about this one. Yeah.
It's him when he's very young. Like it's not like one of those stereotypical biopics where it tries to cram his entire life into 2 hours,
Hmm.
like something Michael. This is one where it focuses on one particular period of time in his life instead. When he's fresh out of when he's like in college in the
Hmm.
70s and ends up getting a summer job at a restaurant in Cape Cod, which I mean, if Anthony Bourdain is he's a food like he's a chef, he's a cook. Well, he was anyway before he passed. He was a cook and a writer. This movie
Hmm.
sort of gives a backstory for how he became a cook, basically.
Okay.
Um,
And who was in it?
the Anthony Bourdain himself was played by a guy named Dominic Sessa, who is an up-and-coming star. He was in a movie called The Holdovers a couple years ago that got award attention, and he's very good here. The subtlety in sort of his performance. Because I think the thing with this movie is it is like it's a bit of a like dry comedy drama. Like it's fairly funny.
Hmm.
And the guy who directed it's not like dying laughing funny. It's a dry style of humor, which the guy behind this, the director, is known for doing comedy stuff. Like again, the aforementioned Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie is very much a comedic film. So we sort of get a bit of that comedic tone. It's definitely got a bit of your biopic cliches, like it's an uplifting story, but I think the thing that makes this work a bit better is that Bourdain is a terrible person at this point in his life. He's kind of a jerk,
Hmm.
and he's like a serial liar. Like he is not honest about anything to anyone. Like he insists that he's going to this place. He goes to Cape Cod for a writing fellowship he got. He didn't get the fellowship. They turned him down, but he keeps insisting because there's a girl he has a crush on and he follows her there. But he insists that the writing fellowship just conveniently took him here. He didn't get the fellowship, so he followed her out of desperation and ended up doing his own thing, getting blackout drunk at a restaurant and getting beaten up by one of the chefs. And then the lead chef, who is simply called, chef. That's all they ever refer to him as.
Hmm.
He ends up letting him sleep on the hammock and is out. He wakes up on his hammock on his front porch, and he's got nowhere to go. He's got no money to buy a bus back home, so he ends up working there just to stay there under this chef guy who was played by Antonio Banderas.
Yeah. How'd he do?
He was sort of the role he was in was definitely like the kind of role you've seen before, but I think he's a charismatic enough actor that he can pull off both sides of this character. Because this
Hmm.
character is sort of the really like the hard on you kind of like boss, but he's also like a mentor figure to Bourdain and the other cooks. Like he's very much hard on them when they're in the kitchen. Like he's not the kind of guy who takes any kind of nonsense,
Hmm.
but he also treats his staff like his family. Like when the restaurant closes, he cooks food for them, and they all
Hmm.
sit down at they pull a table up, and then they all sit down and have dinner. So that's his family.
Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
treats them like family, and there's one of the cooks who's played by Leah Woodall, who was actually the lead in a movie called Tuner that we talked about on the show a couple months ago. He plays one of the other cooks in the kitchen, but
Hmm.
he's a druggie and an alcoholic and really he ends up sort of befriending Bourdain, but he's a really bad influence.
Hmm.
And there's a scene where, because Chef has a whole sort of policy where if you show up, it's like the restaurant opens at 11, which means you show up at 10:45. If you show up at 11, you're late, and if you are late, you're fired. He shows up late because he thought it was the wrong day, and he had put Bourdain on his post because Bourdain was just a dishwasher up until that point, but he has Bourdain start cooking, and so he tries to put Leah Woodall's character on the dishwashing because he was late. Like
Hmm.
he's like, I'm giving you a chance to sort of redeem yourself here. And there's a scene and when that scene sort of it escalates because he's also very obviously still intoxicated, either drunk or high or both. But he keeps trying to go back to his own station, and Chef's like, no, you go do dishwashing because you were late. Anthony's
Mm-hmm.
got he's got this. You do, and he straight up sucker punches Chef, which is a big sort of dramatic scene where Bourdain doesn't know what to do. And then it ends up with a tense standoff where all the other cooks and the other people in the kitchen all sort of stand around because they're worried that he's going to attack again. At the scene where they're having dinner together at the end of the night, that same night, the one of the cooks actually he straight up says that if Woodall's character Sal had attacked Chef again, he would have happily killed him on the spot. He's like, no. He's like, if you went at Chef again, I would have put you down.
Wow.
Yeah, so he
What do
ends
you, what is the whole, you said at the end is uplifting. What happens at the end?
I think it's kind of uplifting, but in a way that feels not as earned as it could have been, but I still fairly liked it as sort of it's not necessarily uplifting per se. I mean, you see him sort of become, you see the ending is sort of him becoming Anthony Bourdain, like him pursuing culinary school instead of writing. And
Mm-hmm.
I do think
Yeah.
it's interesting. I did a little bit of research about him afterwards because at the end of the movie there was a little blurb about what he became after that, and he ended
Mm-hmm.
up being both a cook and a journalist. He ended up being both.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because he was on TV shows. He traveled all over the world doing stuff. Yeah.
he wrote a couple books,
Some
and
books. Yeah.
like he wrote a memoir that was fairly popular.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very unfiltered guy. He has no filter, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Which I think is what
But I
most
guess it is
people talk.
interesting, like no matter what direction you're expecting to go, how you can fall into a career you didn't necessarily know.
Yeah, you get sent on a completely different path. But I think the thing that sort of comes to this is almost a story of him being this like arrogant, egomaniacal serial liar
Mm.
who is desperate to who thinks he's the best at what he does, but he never really is, and
Yeah.
he will lie his way to the top. But
Hmm.
this movie sort of it's humbling to him is it's that's sort of the story. That's sort of what the story is here. It's him getting humbled, which all comes to a head when he proposes introducing a special because the restaurant is struggling, introducing like a lobster special.
Hmm.
But he also lied to Chef at the beginning about having worked in a kitchen before. He's never worked in a kitchen. He doesn't even know kitchen etiquette or kitchen rules. And
Hmm.
there's a part where they're doing the special, the restaurant is getting, people are showing up to the restaurant, like it's all going well until they're trying to do too much. But they're also got a lot of people there and not enough people to manage the kitchen, so they're trying to do too much at once. And some of the pots end up catching fire. And Bourdain, who again has not been in a kitchen before, he has no idea what he's actually doing here. He's only been here a
Yeah.
couple weeks. He try pours water on it, but the war and this is like a grease fire, so
Yeah, that's not good.
he
Yeah.
just makes it worse. And he ends up destroying part of the restaurant and a lot of the equipment. Like everyone
Mm.
gets out okay, but like
Yeah.
that's the moment because him and Chef were really starting to get along. Like she was starting to like genuinely see Chef as a mentor figure. And
It's really surprising then that he stayed in the restaurant business. So.
he stayed in the restaurant business because the sort of the end of the story is him and Leah Woodall's character Sal comes back and they catch a plan to make some money. And then Sal decides to keep lying, saying, "Oh yeah, no, we're doing it for charity to fix the restaurant," even though he's not really with the restaurant anymore. But when they start doing it, Bourdain starts to like genuinely feel that because the thing is, it goes back to a moment where there was like a particular point where a lot of fish come in. That was like a big sort of moment for these because these are seafood people, these are seafood restaurants, and
Mm.
they just go out and get as much as they can, and then they all roast it right there on the beach.
Mm.
And Chef talks about how it used to be a big communal thing, but a lot of people don't show up to it anymore. And I
Mm.
think that almost sort of when he was trying to make some more money by doing that he does a cookout on the beach at the end. And
Hmm.
Sal lies and says it's to fund for charity to get more people to go. But when people actually start showing up, including Chef, who Chef is hurt by this because Chef feels betrayed
Mm.
that Bourdain lied to him, and that inadvertently led to his restaurant being partially destroyed. But he shows up, and they end up ending on better terms because Bourdain actually Sal wants to take the money for himself, but he wants to split him. He's like him and Bourdain are going to split it and take it from themselves, but Bourdain ends up choosing to instead let the money actually go to fixing the restaurant.
Mm.
And just because Chef shows up and like Chef is genuinely like moved by it, and it's almost like he would be wrong to take it for himself. It's like he did a
Mm.
good thing. He lied about doing a good thing, so why don't he actually just do like and Sal, there's a quiet moment at the end where you see Sal in the distance looking at Bourdain, who was after Sal had stuffed the money away. Sa Bourdain takes it back out and starts accepting more for people, and
Hmm.
Sal just kind of looks at him quietly, and you sort of see them both exchange looks. No words are said between each other, but Sal sort of figures out that he's not actually going to take the money for himself. He's going to use it to help
Hmm.
Chef fix the restaurant. And
Yeah.
Sal just leaves. He just looks at him. He's like, "Okay, you've made up your mind. I'm not going to convince you, and I'm not going to fight you over it." So he just walks away,
Mm.
which I thought was a nice moment. Leo Woodall, who plays Sal, he's actually going to be in the new Lord of the Rings movie next year, which is fun.
Oh wow. All right, what could have been better?
I think the issue is because he went to Cape Cod to follow the one girl he had a crush on, and
Mm.
they sort of build their relationship up, but I don't feel like they build it up quite enough.
Mm.
Particularly because after the restaurant goes down, they go back to her like the condo or like the house that her and her friends have been staying in,
Hmm.
and they're like making out and all that, but he finally comes clean and tells her the real reason he's here and that he actually did follow her. It wasn't a coincidence and he never got the writing fellowship that he wanted. So he straight up
Mm.
admits it, and then he leaves, and it's like he leaves because she's no longer sure she trusts him in this moment. But I think the weird thing is right after when he starts doing the beach cookout, she comes back and is almost like completely over it. Like she barely mentions
Mm.
it.
Mm.
I think is just a weird choice. And I think her actress did pretty good with what she had too, which I think is she was in The Running Man last year, and I think she also was underutilized there, but she was still fairly good with the limited screen time she had.
I mean, maybe they just didn't want to spend a lot of time on that because they wanted to be focused on Bourdain and it's his story.
True,
But
but this is still also a story of him getting humbled, and I think they could have humbled him maybe a little bit more. And I have no idea how true this is. I've heard a lot of people say that this might not be entirely factual. Like it sounds like they take a decent amount of creative liberties because I think they said that this film is based on that memoir that he published in like
hmm.
2002, but it's specifically based on the first two chapters of it. So they
Yeah.
stretched two chapters into an hour and 50 minutes,
Yeah.
which I
All
do
right,
think they
give
did.
me your rating.
I think overall it's like a 9 out of 10 because it's also shot incredibly well. Like it's a very small scale story, but they make the most of the environment that they have
Hmm.
in terms of the way it's lit, the way everything is framed, the way they sort of work with every single
There's
actor.
a TV show out. We just started watching called The Bear.
Yeah, I know. I've heard quite a bit about that.
Yeah, I don't have. We've only watched first half of the first season, but I feel like there's some overlap here because it's all about people in the restaurant business and growing over time. I mean, it's a
People
TV
who
show,
are
so it'll go a
people
lot
who are,
deeper
yeah,
over time. But yeah.
there's a lot more they can do with it. Honestly, they
Yeah.
could have done a limited series about his entire life if they really wanted to, because he had a really sort of interesting life, and he died, I think, in 2018. Anthony Bourdain, I think he took his own life, which a lot of people didn't really see coming. Although I feel like the way he's depicted in this story, definitely there are signs of depression behind all that arrogance and that flamboyance. It
Hmm.
seems like in the way he sort of composes himself, it seems like he's burying some sort of anxiety or depression beneath that sort of flamboyant and arrogant and egomaniacal exterior, but
Yeah.
which I think is also just a testament to how good Sessa's performance is here,
Hmm.
is how he's able to convey these different layers,
Yeah.
a degree of subtlety. Like that's not something that's explicitly stated that he struggles with here, but I feel like there are moments,
You can see it.
amount of them, where you can just sort of see the signs just in the way he looks, the way he's acting,
Yeah.
in terms of simple things like eye movements or facial expressions.
Hmm. All right. Sounds like a pretty good movie. I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's not technically out for another 10 days, but not widely anyway.
Yeah.
That's how the
I
screening.
don't expect this is gonna be in the theaters that long. So,
No, it's probably not gonna be a widely released movie because I think the official like wide release is the 21st. It had a
mhm,
limited release starting on Friday, and but by limited I mean it was literally only being screened in LA and New York City.
yeah,
While people complaining about it on the Screen Unseen Reddit thread because apparently people in LA and New York City are like, "Oh, I saw this already. Why are they doing a movie that's already out that defeats the point?" And it's like it's out in two cities,
right. It's not
two
out.
cities in the
Yeah.
entire country. Like,
Hmm.
good on you for being in one of the two cities that it premiered in, but there's also like they're on opposite ends of the country, and there's a lot in between.
Absolutely.
Like, not everyone's going to be in conveniently in the one or two cities that it's available in.
Exactly. All right, let's keep going. Tell me about primetime trailer.
So my thoughts are very brief because this was a movie I was like interested in, but not one I was like following the marketing religiously. But I watched the trailer just for the hell of it. This is a movie, it's like gonna be kind of like a crime thriller-ish.
Mhm.
It's about Chris Hansen is what it's about. Chris Hansen,
Hmm.
his infamous segment of Dateline NBC, How to Catch a Predator, or To Catch a Predator.
Yep.
Robert Pattinson is playing Hansen here, and this trailer is blown up on the internet mostly because of Pattinson's performance. But
Yeah.
Pattinson's been on a roll lately. I don't expect anything bad from him. But when I watched the trailer, and I'm going to talk briefly about his performance in a bit, but the camera work, the framing, the editing of the trailer is insane. The guy directing it, Lance Oppenheim, is fairly young. He's, I think, 30 right now,
Hmm.
in his early 30s. He's fairly up and coming. And this is only like his third or fourth feature. But everything about how everything is framed in this, like, it's hard to really say what exactly it is, but there's something about it that feels old school in a way, like 90s to 2000s. And I mean that entirely in a complimentary way. Like
Well, yeah, because that's when To Catch a Predator was big.
that
So,
was the early to mid 2000s. So,
right.
but this feels like they're trying to capture sort of the cinematic like style of like a crime thriller or a drama from one of those eras.
Hmm.
And I think it's going to deal, I kind of hope it de delves a bit into like the controversy surrounding the ethics and the legality of doing something like that for the sake of entertainment with the sting operations. But I think
When's this movie come out?
next month, September 25th.
Okay.
Um, Everything about it looks great, but Pattinson's performance, and we get a brief sequence of him entering the Sting house dramatically and delivering some of his iconic Chris Hansen lines. Why don't you take a seat right there? Or one that people have been using in memes a lot the last couple of days since this trailer took the internet by storm. He says, "You see how this looks, right?" Pattinson's voice, what he does with his voice, he doesn't necessarily look the most like Hansen, but the way he sort of articulates his voice, he sounds almost identical to Hansen. Like he is
Hmm.
able to replicate sort of the mannerisms of just the way Hansen speaks almost flawlessly. Like I've looked at clips of like of Pattinson's performance versus footage from the actual show of Hansen himself,
Hmm.
and he sounds almost identical. Like
Yeah, that's crazy.
Pattinson, I think, could be good just doing voice acting because of the way he's able to articulate his voice. He was in the English dub of a Japanese animated movie a couple of years ago that everyone was blown away by his performance in that movie because his
Hmm.
voice was completely unrecognizable. Like you would not know it was him unless without reading the credits in advance. And I
Okay.
think he's one of the more like I love the fact that he's rising to stardom and becoming more mainstream post Twilight. Like he's
Yeah, I felt
everyone
like he
just
wasn't doing much for a while, but it seems like now he's getting invited to do a lot of stuff.
he was doing a lot of smaller things
Yeah.
after Twilight, but the Twilight thing sort of he was stuck in that image of everyone just saw
Yeah,
him
like Teen Idol, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
everyone just saw him as like Edward from Twilight, but
Yeah, he's got a bit of a
I
resurgence.
yeah, that sort of he's sort of the only one of the from those movies that's sort of trying to make his name as sort of a like legitimate serious performer because
Hmm.
I think it all really started when maybe when he did Christopher Nolan's Tenet, but then right after that he became freaking Batman.
Yep.
And when his Batman film did way better than expected, because his casting as Batman was like a hugely controversial choice when it was first announced. Like everyone's like, why is a Twilight guy playing Batman? He absolutely proved himself, and now he's just going ballistic. I mean, this is probably his fourth major release this year because he's got
Yeah.
drama, he's got The Odyssey, he's got Dune 3 coming out later this year.
Hmm.
He's just everywhere this year,
Yeah. Well, good for him, I guess. So.
and we were going to have the Batman 2 next year, but our lovely friends at Warner Brothers have decided that we are going to delay that for the fourth time because why not?
All right, let's keep going. Next movie review, Her Private Hell. I don't know if I've heard this one.
It wasn't overly marketed. I was curious just because the director is kind of a controversial filmmaker.
Okay.
Like he's had some like beloved movies. Have you ever heard of the movie Drive with Ryan Gosling? Came out
Yeah,
probably 15 years ago.
that's an
Same.
old one. Yeah. What's the director's name?
His name is Nicholas Winding. I'm not. It's Refn. Rev. I don't know if the N silent or the F silent or the R silent. One of the letters has got to be silent there because I have no idea how to pronounce that.
Yeah.
But he again, he did Drive, which is probably his most famous movie and probably his only
Yeah.
famous movie. The rest of them have been like they're popular in little niche film circles, but Drive's the only one that became like a mainstream success.
Hmm.
I mean, everyone and their mother was talking about like Ryan Gosling, he's literally me, I drive.
All right. Well, so tell me, what was the movie about? What was
Um,
good?
what was this about? You see, I watched the movie and I have no idea what it's actually about.
Oh boy.
It's set in like this neo sort of, it feels almost like a neo-noir aesthetic in terms of its setting. Like
Okay.
it's very Blade Runner coded. Like the aesthetic reminds me of like Blade Runner 2049 and John Wick, which are two films I'm going to compare it to later.
Is it because it's meant to be in the future?
Yeah, like a near future. Like it's not like a far future, but there's some like there's the aesthetics are really kind of bizarre, and I think they also kind of carry the entire film because the plot makes pretty much no sense, and the screenplay is kind of all right. I'm just gonna get into there's two main plot lines. There's an A plot, which is led. We have two protagonists. We have the character of Elle, who was played by Sophie Thatcher. That is the A plot, and we have Private K, played by Charles Melton. That is the B plot. Private K's name actually, I think, is very funny and it doubles down on the Blade Runner references because Blade Runner 2049's main character was a character named Officer K, who was also played by Ryan Gosling. So I'm like, okay, we're very much ripping on Blade Runner here, but
Hmm.
I liked the B plot more than the A plot because it was more straightforward.
Okay.
It's so tonally inconsistent from the rest of the movie. Like it feels so out of place because the B plot you don't really get introduced to until 30 to 45 minutes into the film. So it
Hmm.
feels like it comes out of nowhere because it's so tonally different from the A plot that it just takes you out of it for a second. Although I guess it's
Hmm.
hard to be taken out of a movie I was never really invested in the first place. But so I'm not gonna break this
So,
down into what worked and what didn't because it
no, but it sounds like generally it's a weird kind of movie.
yeah. The A plot line was about so Elle is like the daughter of this like rich guy who's a complete weirdo, but
Hmm.
her best friend Dominique
Hmm.
married her father and is now her stepmother. Um,
That'll be
that
weird.
was a
What's going
very
on?
strange dynamic that I did not understand one bit.
Yeah.
There's also like they're actors and they're in this movie, and it's this weird sci-fi movie that has like the worst effects known to man, and they try to shoehorn it into the main plot somehow. And then the other actor from the other actor who's been staying with them is some weird influencer girl who contributes nothing to the plot and is just there to die.
Okay.
Because then they introduced the idea of this story of the Leatherman, who may or may not be an interpretation of Satan. Um, and he like kills people because his daughter went missing, and when the fog or the mist comes out, he comes out. And this connects to the Private K plot line because Private K is like trying to kill the Leatherman because he took his daughter. So you get like this weird erotic drama with Elle and Dominique and the influencer girl, and then you've got Private K, who is basically just John Wick. Like, I mean, he starts beefing with the Yakuza and the police in his epic hunt to find and kill the Leatherman. And it's like, okay, we were just this weird, like, erotic sci-fi thriller. Now we're in John Wick action movie. Why are we both of these at once? This doesn't match at all.
And did the plot A and plot B come together at any
They
point?
did in the third act, where both L and Private K somehow ended up in the Leatherman's domain, which may or may not be hell, but it's also like full of like these crystals and it looks ridiculous. And I have no idea what it was trying to be. And then they have to fight the Leatherman, and like L that knows that the only way to kill the Leatherman is to chop his hands off because his hands have these weird gloves with these weird gems on them. But Kay doesn't know that, so he starts just throwing hands with the Leatherman, and they have a whole freaking John Wick face off that doesn't go too well. And then L pulls up with like a hacksaw, like an axe, and just lops the Leatherman's hands off, and then he dies.
Leatherman just doesn't seem like for a villain. I don't know. Seems like a weird
He's
name
weird
even.
because he like hardly has a presence in the main plot. He hardly has a physical presence at all. But like in
Yeah.
the A plot line with L, he feels like such an afterthought until he inexplicably kills the other two main characters from that plot line. Just shows up and slimes them out. And then L has a reason to kill him. And then there's Private K, who is like actively trying to find him through the entirety of his plot line. So
Yeah.
it's like the Leatherman feels very connected to Private K's plot line, and he feels like an afterthought in the main plot with Elle and her friend. And it's just so kind of weird because it's like we keep referencing him, but he never feels like an actual presence, and he definitely never feels like an actual threat.
Hmm. How was Sophie? How did she do?
She seemed bored out of her mind for the first two-thirds of the movie. In the third act, I feel like she did a lot better, but she really needs a better agent because she's also been in things like the Book of Boba Fett, in which she was one of the weird biker cyborg gangsters that worked for Boba Fett, who did nothing and were just there. She needs a better agent because she seemed bored out of her mind for most of the first two acts. In the third act, she finally locked in a bit, but for the first two acts, she just seemed like she was completely and utterly unengaged.
Yeah.
Which is especially, again, it's especially funny when you go back to Charles Melton's Officer K. He is going all in with like being cartoonishly over dramatic. Like he's
Hmm.
narrating it, and it's his performance is so funny and so campy and so over the top that it almost works. It almost works. It's just this is not the movie for it to be working in because this movie, like I said, it's like two different movies that are tonally clashing with one another, trying to be one coherent thing, but they're just not committing to one idea or the other. So it just feels like two very tonally different things that are clashing with each other so much.
Yeah.
And it's just so clunky. Like the resolution where we finally bring everything together with the Leatherman just feels so awkward because it feels like he's like not at all involved in the main plot.
All right. Give me a rating.
Like a 5 out of 10, and that's mostly for the visuals, and sometimes I found the sheer absurdity of it amusing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, 5 out of 10. I know is not too good for you.
No,
So
it's not terrible, but it's firmly in the category of, yeah, I definitely watched that.
it's firmly in the category of you could probably skip it.
Yeah,
So
not something I would generally say is something I'd recommend.
also the title, Her Private Hell, just feels like it should be something different.
Yeah.
All right, let's do next one. TV review, Star Wars time. The Ninth Jedi.
Now this I've been waiting a very long time for.
Yeah.
Because this is again just a recap. This is a follow-up to two short films from Star Wars Visions, the
Hmm.
aptly titled The Ninth Jedi from Visions Volume 1 and The Ninth Jedi Child of Hope from Visions Volume 3. And in retrospect, Child of Hope feels very distant from the rest of these because Visions Volume 3 just premiered in October of last year, and
Hmm.
Child of Hope was done by almost entirely different creative team than the original Ninth Jedi short because the people who worked on the original Ninth Jedi short were busy working on, this.
Yeah.
So it was almost like an appetizer to hold us over. Like it felt like a filler episode. It didn't bother me too much, but that's just because I we knew about the show at this point. We knew it was something that was coming. So it's like, okay, that wasn't great, but like it doesn't like offend me because I know where we're going. And that the second short also sort of established the idea of our or mentioned our main villain by name for the first time with Nawam, who was a huge mystery at the time. We had no idea what we were going to expect with him, and obviously we got a lot of him here. We got introduced to him fully, and I'm just gonna
How many episodes was this?
eight. They dropped all of them at once, and yes, I watched them all in one sitting.
Wow. That's impressive.
I'm committed to the I'm committed to this franchise for better for worse. My wallet hates me for it, especially when they release two $60 video games a year.
Yeah,
And
that'll do it.
those are both coming out in the next like 2 months. So we're going to talk about those when those come, but we're not talking about that.
Well,
So
so tell me generally what was it about or what was the being?
So this, again, the vision stuff is not technically canon, but sort of the
Right.
basis of this sort of alternate world is that it's set in the far, far future, like probably centuries to millennia after the end of the Skywalker saga. The Jedi
Okay.
are a distant memory. The Jedi and Sith are distant memories in galactic history, and there is no central galactic government anymore.
Okay.
Um, but sometime a couple decades beforehand, a Force sensitive guy tried to bring back the Jedi Order, which
Hmm.
worked for a while, but it didn't last forever because I'm going to get into that in a bit. But one of his apprentices, Lajima, ended up being the one to kill him, which was a big sort of disaster where everyone's like, why would he kill him? Because Jima doesn't come off as a bad guy. So everyone's like, why did that happen? So Jima goes to the planet High Island in exile, which is being run by his friend and he was trained alongside him, the planet's ruler, Margrave Juro. He lives in exile with his young daughter, Kara, and works as a sabersmith. The art of lightsaber crafting is lost in this universe, and he is the only living person who knows the art of building a lightsaber.
Wow. Okay.
But he also introduced the idea of lightsabers that their blades sort of adapt to the user's heart, like how they
Hmm.
feel in their heart, their emotions and their emotion and their state of mind reflects their blade color because and I didn't know this at when last time we talked about this, but I apparently that's because he introduced the concept of liquefied kyber crystals, so he liquefied the crystals, and that's how they're able to change colors based on the user's heart. In the original short, we saw Kara wielding a lightsaber, but she wasn't confident in her abilities, so it was transparent as opposed to, but when she finally became confident in her abilities, it turned to a solid green.
Hmm.
And this series doubles down on that idea to the maximum, and it is actually really compelling. Because you see in the first episode, when we're introduced to our big villain Nawam for the first time, he's like clad in black, dark robes, dark helmet, very like Darth Vader-y in how he looks. And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, this guy's obviously a Sith. He's going to have a red lightsaber, dark side. And when when a rogue Jedi shows up at his fortress to challenge him, he ignites his lightsaber, it's blue.
Hmm.
And again, the way lightsabers work here is that again, they shift based on the user's
I'm just
heart. So
thinking about this
every
guy being annoyed that he's like, no, listen, I'm a red guy, and then his lightsaber comes out and he can't hide it. So,
Yeah, it's not even that because he's not a dark side user. We learn a little bit into it because we get flashbacks where Kara goes to the planet where her father was trained and talks to the leader of the planet, and she explains what happened with her father, Lajima, and his master.
mm,
Is a fight broke out between them. And during the fight, Jima sort of, he was balancing his compassion and his anger. And you saw
hmm,
his lightsaber flickering between blue and red at one point, but then it turned silver.
it's
He,
different.
He achieves what Noam calls a state of nothingness, sort of almost tuning yourself, almost disconnecting yourself from your emotions and finding
Mm.
balance in the force in a bizarre, almost dangerous way. And in that moment, he just immediately kills his master, strikes him down, and he doesn't even, it's like a snap. He doesn't even notice he does it. Like,
Mm.
he ends up running away because he's terrified of that power. He's terrified of what he could become. He's terrified that he could become worse than consumed by anger and hatred. But this is less than consumed by anger and hatred. This is being consumed by apathy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so he runs away. But Nawam, who was a child at the time, and he was a Jedi, he was training under the same Jedi Master. He saw this happen and he swore to him that he would achieve, he swore to himself that he would achieve that same power of, as he calls it, nothingness. Although we later did learn in the same episode, they found the Jedi Master's old ship. He had been getting into politics and commerce and trade and establishing trade relationships between the various planets in this system. But they find his old starship locked away in a vault, and
Hmm.
they use it to escape. But when they're rummaging through, they find the secret basement, and in it they find people frozen in carbonite. And it turns out they researched the people. They've been in carbonite so long that they're actually just dead. But it turns out they find out that these are people who were major business rivals of this Jedi Master who had mysteriously gone missing. He
Mm.
kidnapped them and replaced them with people who were loyal to him. So the Master fell to the dark side, and they find out because they were wary of Zima because of him killing the Master. When they find out the reason he killed the Master, and they find security recordings where Zima confronts his master about it, but then he walks away trying to expose him. The master, Master Reno, he was the one who initiated that fight. He attacked first. He provoked the fight.
Mm.
Zima was balancing anger and compassion because his master succumbed to greed and to the dark side.
Hmm.
And he wanted to stop him. He wanted to expose his crimes. So we pretty quickly, when we introduce Nawam, we see his blue saber because he trained as a Jedi. He had no hatred in his heart. And that is what made him that was sort of what makes him an interesting antagonist. It sort of messes with the idea of gray Jedi, which is a concept the fans have thrown out there, but I don't think it's ever been dealt with in an official capacity because it just doesn't work. You cannot utilize the dark and light sides together because
Right.
ultimately one of them will consume you. Usually the
Yeah.
dark, because the light side is you existing in tandem with the force. The dark side is your negative emotions taking over you completely. And he tries to balance them both. So you see in the fourth episode, he attacks them himself. Him and Kara fight,
Hmm.
learns why, or Kara learns what his deal is. But then her mentor and the ruler of the planet that she was raised on, Margrave Juro, comes to her rescue, and Nawam kills Juro. Nawam strikes Juro down, and right after that, his saber, he finally achieves that state of nothingness. And I love the way they animate the eyes in the show. The eyes are so sort of
Hmm.
crucial, especially Kara and Nawam, who have basically opposite arcs. They're perfect parallels of one another. You see Kara, her eyes are so lively, full of life, but his eyes are so just empty. They look like pools of nothingness.
Mm.
But the show sort of goes on, you see sort of Kara exile herself because she failed to save Juro. She goes off to this little planet, lives in exile, but then she's hunted down by Nawam's forces, and she boards the one cruiser that attacked the planet. They attacked the planet and started killing the civilians because this was a more primitive world. They started killing the aliens that lived there.
Hmm.
She boards the ship, kills everyone. I mean, she murders them all in a fit of rage. So she's now like she's letting that anger control her, and that's reflected when at the end of episode 5 you see her blade turns red.
Wow.
You see her wield the red saber in the next episode when the same bounty hunters that kidnapped her father in the first episode or in the original short film show up to fight her. You see her wielding that red, but you see her sort of that red, that aggression is too sporadic and it's not helping her. She's
Hmm.
accomplishing nothing, so she tries to do what Nawam does and sort of shut herself off. So she's in a perfect state of focus. That's when her blade turns silver. And she kills one of the bounty hunters, and then the other one, she basically says, she's like, yo, you work for me now. You're a Jedi now. She just gives him a lightsaber, and he turns his lightsaber on, and it's blue, and she's like, see, you're not that bad. And so she just drags him along for the ride, which is really fun. Like, he's just like, what the hell, sure. And there's a
But then
whole,
she continues on to the light side.
yeah, but it's
So
sort of,
they both get the silver, but then they go opposite directions.
they both get to the silver, but in the finale, when they confront each other, and she reunites with her father, who is still using this, who still has a silver blade, he's
Hmm.
not happy about it. He doesn't like relying on the silver, and he thinks it's not, he's terrified of that power. Like when he first ignites a lightsaber for the first time in years, he's like, I didn't want to rely on this power again. And
Hmm.
he actually, the thing with his sabers is they actually have adjustable blade lengths as well. You can adjust the length of the blade. So when he ignites it, he immediately adjusts it to be shorter so he doesn't have to channel as much of that sort of nothingness energy. But the
Well, tell me,
final,
was there anything here you thought they could have done better?
oh, I wasn't done at the sort of the end. I just needed to, the way the
No,
story sort of,
good. Yeah, go for
the
it.
way it sort of, the finale shows the two of them, Nawam and Kara, both with their silver blades. They clash with each other, but you see Nawam as he slowly loses control, you see him become more frustrated. You see him start to slip away from that complete state of focus, and you actually see it in his eyes too. His eyes become deep, his eyes become more complex, almost three-dimensional, it
Hmm.
feels like. And you see Kara, who finally gives up, Kara, who eventually realizes that this path of nothingness is not the way, and her saber turns back to the green it used to be. She finally
Hmm.
fully embraces the path of the Jedi. And Nawam, who is just getting pissed beyond his mind, you see the horror in his eyes when his blade finally turns red in that final episode. And he just finally just gives into it and lets it all out, screams in a fit of rage, lunges at her, and she takes him down without killing him. She determines she doesn't want to kill any, she doesn't want to take lives anymore. So
Yeah, wow.
she defeats him and lets him live, and
Yeah,
then they're able to start this new Jedi Order. And Lajima actually, her father actually gives him an opportunity to redeem himself, and they end on kind of a weird cliffhanger where you have him hand the lightsaber to Nawam and let him out of the prison cell, and you see Nawam sort of smile a bit, and then he ignites the lightsaber off screen, but you don't see anything but his face, and you don't see what color his lightsaber was. So we don't. I think there's possibility they could follow up on this because they leave it kind of open-ended with
so
whether or not
you think they'll
Nawam.
do another series?
They might, but I feel like with the Visions Presents branding, there's so much potential because the Ninth Jedi, that's two short films from the original Visions show, and the Visions was 3 seasons with 9 episodes each. And there's been rumors we're getting more projects under this branding next year. So I'm curious to see where that goes.
Yeah, so instead of doing another season of this, I could just do another sort of storyline
Yeah,
somewhere.
a follow up to one of the other shorts because they might follow up on the dual storyline from the
Yeah.
first and third seasons where that's set in an alternate like feudal Japan inspired timeline, and you've got this rogue former Sith Lord hunting down
Hmm.
other Sith, which is an
Okay.
interesting concept. They did a book in that timeline too, and that book was really good. I really liked that book.
All right, so tell me what could they have done better?
I do think the whole Kyber crystal cannon was a little derivative. Like, yes, this is functionally a Death Star. We've done this before. Um, I think they handled it in an interesting enough way that it wasn't like terrible, but I do think they could have come up with something maybe a little more interesting. Although I guess giant planet killing super weapons are a big anime trope too, so like I
But the
guess
thing
it
is,
makes
you're
sense.
saying this is taking place like century after the end of the Skywalker series, so it's like, how have we either done the Death Star somewhere along the line, or somebody given up on it already?
Yeah, I mean, again, it kind of makes sense because Star Wars loves their planet-killing super weapons, anime loves their planet-killing super weapons. You mix the two, you're probably gonna get a planet-killing super weapon somewhere in there. And I do think the way they took it down was a little more interesting because instead of powering it with a bunch of kyber crystals, they powered it with one giant kyber crystal, and they realized they couldn't destroy the weapon itself, so they actually resorted to just destroying the crystal. And when the crystal exploded, it sort of fired all of the crystal shards out of the cannon, and it ended up forming a ring of kyber around the planet, which I thought was pretty cool. But one thing that kind of bugged me was a couple of the original supporting characters. Like when the original short film ended, there were four main Jedi characters. There was Kara, who's the main character, Juro, who he died halfway through, but I think they did enough with him, and then Ethan and Homan. Homan was fighting with the Sith in the original episode, but that was because he was consumed by their darkness, and his saber like started out as red, but it turned purple as he sort of came back to his senses. Homan has pissed me off, especially because Homan is such an interesting idea. The sort of idea of his character, of him sort of being able to, if there's too much, like if there's an overwhelming presence of the dark side, he will succumb to his own inner darkness, but he's not inherently a bad guy.
Hmm.
I think they could have explored that a little more, and if they do a follow-up series, I do want to see them explore that with him a little more because his saber is still purple. And the character of Ethan, he was completely absent for the first episode or most of the first episode, which they have it so they sent him on an undercover mission to Nawam's fortress, but like he's just like noticeably not there for the first like 20 minutes of the first episode, and it's like,
Mhm.
where is bro? Do we have any explanation? They not even a passing mention of him, and then at the end they're like, oh yeah, no, he's actually undercover on Nawam's world. Like he just feels kind of like he's just kind of there for a
Gotcha.
lot of the show. Like he's not an overly engaging character. He's just kind of there for the sake of being there. Which I mean, I
Mhm.
get it. He's not the main character. The main focus is again Kara's journey and Nawam as the threat. And again, Kara and Nawam are like perfect parallels of one another. So I get why he's not as big of a focus, but I wish there were a few more character moments with him and especially Homan.
Hmm. Okay. Well, what kind of rating do you give this
I
show?
give this overall, this is a solid 9 out of 10. I feel like more of this is what Star Wars needs going forward. I don't need 20 million more Clone Wars spin-offs. Let's get something unique. Let's get new minds, new people, new
New characters,
vision.
new ideas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I like Visions in concept so much because it's not animated by Lucasfilm. Like the whole
Right.
premise of Visions is that they have different studios from around the world do their own animated takes on Star Wars. Vision's second season, the first season and the third season of Visions are all Japanese studios, different studios, but all like Japanese anime. The second season was studios from around the world. So we
Mm-hmm.
had studios from like France and India and Spain. We had animators from everywhere. But I just love the idea of letting people outside of Lucasfilm's like consistent creative team getting to do their own sort of take on Star Wars. And I think the thing with Visions is it's not confined to canon either. They can literally do whatever they want.
Yeah. Well, I do feel like Star Wars is such a fan-driven franchise that it makes sense to sort of let these fans from all over, in a way, from all over the place have a say in some
Yeah.
parts of the storyline. So yeah, it's cool.
My biggest issue with the way they handle Visions is that they don't do a very good job marketing and distributing it. Like they'll put very little effort into the marketing and then they'll release the entire season at once instead of doing one a week or two a week or just
Yeah.
prolong it. Like, and this show I feel like is one they could have and should have prolonged. Like,
Yeah.
I think they should have done.
I guess maybe they do it because they know the core fans are going to go watch these shows. But like, yeah, you can build up a new fan base if you market them differently.
Yeah, especially there was the rumors that the Visions Presents branding would also have a feature film next year. That I
Mm,
feel like they're going to have to push heavier with the marketing, especially because it sounds like Lucasfilm wants to release that in theaters, even if Disney's executives are pushing against that and want it to go straight to streaming.
mm.
I would pay to see it in theaters happily. I'm all for these more creative interpretations of Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, the core fans will go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what's next for next week? We got any movie ideas?
There's probably going to be two, maybe three movies I see this weekend. Where I know I'm going to see the 10th anniversary re-release of La La Land, which is a movie I've never seen but have heard a lot about. And they're doing a 2 day theatrical rerun in Dolby for the film, and and I want to see that actually because the cinematographer for it, I believe he won an Oscar for the film. His name's Linus Sandgren. He's really good, and I've never seen one of his movies on the big screen, but he's also the one attached to be shooting Dune Part 3,
Hmm.
which and I just want to see his stuff on I want to see his work because from what I've seen movies he's shot, even if the movie's not that great, his work with colors and shadows and lighting is absolutely exquisite.
Well, I know La La Land was all about the lighting and the production of it was one of the things
Yeah.
that stood out. So,
The production, the lighting was like integral to the film. It was very vibrant. I've seen clips because the girls watch it a lot. It's very vibrant, but I've never seen it
mhm.
in full. I've seen pieces of it, but
All right, that'll be a good one to hear your view of it. So, and then you said Disney D23 Expo's coming.
that's this weekend, and that is very exciting because we've been hearing rumors for a few weeks now that
Hmm.
their main presentation, which I think is on Friday, will showcase the first trailer for Star Wars Starfighter. And unlike The Mandalorian and Grogu at last year's D23, the
Hmm.
rumors also suggest that the trailer for Starfighter will not be exclusively shown to attendees, but will be released publicly online. In Mando's case, they showed a trailer exclusively to attendees and then released a different trailer online a month later.
Hmm.
But
Okay, so you got some things to look forward to. So,
yeah, and there's going to be probably Marvel stuff there too to talk about. But I feel like that'll be probably the biggest chunk of next week's episode. The movies will be like whatever movies we review other than La La Land are going to be sort of secondary to our epic Star Wars news.
yeah.
Maybe we'll hear about that Visions movie too, the Screechers Reach Visions movie. If they truly want that to come out next year, if they're truly confident it can make next year, I could see them officially announcing it there.
Yep.
But we'll see, I guess.
All right. Well, that wraps us all up for this week. So,
That does in fact. Yeah, that's a wrap, I guess.
yep.
And cut.